Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my January wrap-up for the second half of January. In the first half of January, I read 4 books, which were Dr. Sleep by Stephen King, Flipside by Loomis Lutnack, The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, and Black Cake by Charlemagne Wilkerson. If you would like to hear more about those books, I will have my wrap up for the first half of January linked down in the description. In the second half of January, I read another 7 books. So I did really well in the second half of January. And I ended up with a total of 11 books, which is 2,389 pages and 44.48 hours of audio, which is a really good month for me. I'm super happy about that. Almost got through my whole TBR, really. I do have a few that are carrying over. The first book I finished in the second half of January is The Drift by C.J. Tudor. This was a book club pick for the Fright Club, hosted by Cliff's Dark Gems and Secrets Read. This is a horror thriller taking place during huge storms, huge snowstorms. It's this like apocalyptic world, and it also has very locked room, like very small enclosed spaces where this is taking place. There's 3 kind of storylines going at once that it flips back and forth between, with 3 groups of people to keep track of, which was a little confusing at first, but I had no problem figuring out who was who as the story went on, because I thought that the characters were really unique, memorable. This is a very tense thriller, which is what you want. You want to be thrilled, and I was, and I really super enjoyed this book. I would recommend it. The Drift by C.J. Tudor. I hope to read a bunch more of C.J. Tudor's books. Then I finished another thriller, When You Disappeared by John Mars. This was for the John Mars read-along, hosted by the Bookish Drummer and Ian the Reader. And the chapter conundrum, I think this was not my favorite thriller. It was mostly sad, and it made me really angry at the husband who disappeared. It was a lot of drama. It kept me turning the pages, but this was not my favorite way to go about a thriller. Next, I finished a huge one, World Without End by Ken Follett, and this is the second book in the Kingbridge series, and I was reading this for a vlog, which is going to be continuing on into February because they're all super long books. It's a reading chunky books off my TBR vlog, so it's taking longer than I thought. Not surprising at all. But this is a historical series taking place in England. The first book was in the 1100s, and this one is in the 1300s, and there is a whole lot of drama and craziness that can get down in the 1300s. There's a lot of very historically accurate things with plagues and witch hunts and all this kind of stuff. Full of shenanigans. The characters, this is very character driven, but the plot is always quick. Things are happening. And I was rooting for some characters so hard, and I was rooting against characters so hard. And that's exactly what I did in the first book. Will say there are trigger warnings galore. So if you're sensitive to anything, I would look up the trigger warnings. Storygraph is a great place to look. You could also ask me and I'll let you know personally. The next book is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. And I read this for the Creepy Book Club hosted by Nightmare Maven. This was a little novella, horror novella, and I loved it. It's such a good story. It is an LGBTQ love story in a very horror kind of way, very much not fairy tale. Gets real twisted and weird, and I loved it. Next, I finished The Walking Worm by Matthew W. Quinn. This was an ARC copy, so I did have a full review for this. I will have it linked down in the description. And this is the third book in the Long War series, which is a science fiction horror series that is on the border between YA and adults. The first book was YA, and then it becomes more adult after that. The characters are in college, but there's creatures, aliens, there's a secret organization that is fighting these aliens, and our young characters get kind of wrapped up into the mix, and they're fighting this long war. And this particular one had a walking worm as a creature. Next, another thriller, Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. And this was a really good thriller. It was definitely surprising, thrilling, and I liked it a lot. Thrill, Chill, or Kill Book Club is hosted by The Bookish Drummer and Chapter Conundrum. We read thrillers and horror books every month and see if they are a thrill, if they're chill, or a kill. The last book that I read in January, I finished on the very last day of January. It was a little novella, Guests by Keelan Patrick Burke. And this was the book club pick for the Cornucopia Book Club, which is Slime and Slasher's Patreon only book club. And it was a fast read. It was really good. Had a lot to do with grief. The main character's grandma dies, and he doesn't want to be alone in the house, so he decides to work at the hotel that he works at, and they get a bunch of guests in that are older. So there's a lot about aging in this novella as well. And some strange things start to happen. I'll just leave it at that. But I thought it was really, really good. Fast. So that is the 7 books I read in the second half of January, and that makes 11 books for the month. Very happy with that, and going into February, excited to read a bunch of books that I've been dying to read forever. It's gonna be a great month. Let me know what your favorite book you read in January was. Also, if you've read any of these books, what did you think of them? And I'll be back very soon with another book related video. Thanks. Bye.